Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Mindy with Paper Creations by Mindy, and today I'm going to be doing some embossing and ink blending using my supplies from 7 Kids, your Crafty supply store. Here is a quick look at 2 cards that I'll be creating with you today. I'm starting off by stamping my flower from the Hibiscus Bouquet stamp from Altenew. I'm going to be using my Misty stamping tool to line it up in the middle of my card front, which is cut from Nina Solar White cardstock. I cut it 4 inches by 5 1/4. I'm going to be using my Versamark ink to ink up the stamp. Now I want to note I should have prepared my paper with some non-static powder, but I forgot and totally lucked out that my embossing powder didn't stick a lot to my paper. I decided, since I had my heat tool out, to go ahead and do 2 of them, one in white embossing powder and one in black. For the embossing, I'm going to be using the Nouveau Glacier White and Nouveau Black embossing powders. I just sprinkle some of the powder on and tap it off. My white I'm going to set off on the side for a second so I can do my black right away too. I didn't put enough black on at first, so I went back and just kept applying until I felt I had a nice even coverage. Another note is that I didn't warm up my gun good enough, so it took a little longer to heat emboss. You're getting lots and tips of lessons from me today. For my ink blending, I'm going to be using Fossilized Amber, Spiced Marmalade, and Worn Lipstick. These are part of the new line of Distress Ink Oxides. I absolutely love how they blend so nicely together, so you'll see me using them a lot in future videos. I put painter's tape around my image because I don't want the ink to go everywhere, just in that center part. I'm also lucking out on this because I just eyeballed everything when I was lining up how my tape was gonna go. I'm starting at the bottom of my image with the Fossilized Amber. I'll then blend in my Spiced Marmalade and finish it off with the Worn Lipstick. I go back over my colors just a little to blend it out a little bit more. When it's done, carefully remove the painter's tape. You want to pull it away slowly so as not to rip the cardstock. I take a piece of paper towel afterwards to lightly wipe away any ink that may have been on top of that embossing powder, and I'll repeat the same process for the black embossed flower. One thing you can do is, if you have some grid line paper, put that underneath your cardstock that you're working on, and you can line up all of your lines, put the card on there, line up your lines. That'll help keep the tape straight when you're applying it. Now I'm going to be working on my sentiments and the card assembly. I'm going to keep each card to its color scheme. So my white embossed flower card, I'm going to have that on a white card base. You might have noticed at the bottom of the cardstock I have a small smudge of ink. This is most likely because I did not give the ink enough time to dry before moving it around, and I ended up with some ink down there. So I cut out a strip of cardstock that I'm going to stamp my sentiment on, and I can use that to cover it up. Project saved! I'm going to be using the Class Act stamp set from Sugar Pea Designs. It's getting to be that time of the year where I need end of school year cards, and this stamp set has some fabulous sentiments on it for the teachers. Once again, I'm using my Misty stamping tool to stamp the sentiment. You don't have to use a Misty. Any stamping tool or clear block would work just fine. I personally love the Misty because I cannot stamp straight to save my life. And if I oops and it doesn't stamp all the way, I can just ink it back up and go back over it so it's a nice, crisp, stamped sentiment. So for my card with the black embossed flower, I decided to just stamp straight onto the card front. I line up my card flush with the edge because if the paper sticks to the stamp at all, I know exactly where I need to put my paper, so if I have to stamp it again, it's going to line up perfectly. Now that everything is stamped, I just use my scrapbook adhesive tape runner to attach everything to the card base. For a final finishing touch, I'm going to add some drops of Nouveau Crystal Morning Dew Drops. These mainly dry clear. I did add a couple drops to the middle of the flower, and when that dried, it kind of took on a color of the ink a little bit, which actually worked out perfect. I hope you enjoyed today's video and it gave you some inspiration to create. If it did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to keep up to date. I will list down below some helpful links to the supplies that I use, and you can also visit my blog papercreationsbymindy.blogspot.com. If there is something you would like to see me do, go ahead and drop a comment below. Thanks for watching.